Hi everybody, I'm here at the Georgetown Fair, and one of our sponsors here is Farm Credit Illinois, helping farm families succeed, and that's exactly what they do. And joining me right now is Lee Waters. How you doing, Lee?
Real good. Thanks. Absolutely. Thanks for having us.
Nice to have you with us. And Todd Smith. How you doing, Todd?
Dave, doing great. Thanks for having us.
Glad to be here, and glad to have you with this event here. Thank you guys for putting this on for the junior livestock exhibitors here.
Yeah, it's like I said, this is probably one of the neatest local fairs in Central Illinois. I mean, they always do a great job, and so between that and our customers, this is a real neat event. We get to really show our appreciation to people. So
you get a lot of good feedback from the youngsters.
It's been great. I tell you, the funnest thing we talked about is that we get to feed the fair, the families that are showing, and so it gives us an opportunity to meet a lot of different families from other areas. But we've seen some of these kids I've seen from very small to being grown up to coming back through here in school, and so this is I'm impartial, or what's the correct word? I'm not partial. This is the best fair around by far.
Appreciate that. And to watch them stay into agriculture as they get older, that's exciting.
Absolutely. Good family atmosphere, good agriculture atmosphere. The board's made up of farmers. When you guys support it so well, and we're fortunate to get to be a part of it.
Well, I was raised on a farm. You don't get it out of your blood, do you, Lee?
That's for sure. Yeah, it's something that you grow up in. I mean, I could say from my experience, being still involved in our family farm operation, that even when it's frustrating, it's still a good thing to be in. I mean, I am lucky to have that in my life, that too. So.
Well, 2019 has been a challenging year thus far.
Very much so. As we spoke earlier, we thought we'd never get it planted, and we thought it'd never stop raining, and now we need a rain so bad we can't stand it, and we don't know what the markets are going to do, and a lot of frustration. But we always preserve, and obviously I sell crop insurance, so I'm obviously a believer in it. But it's a huge thing that could really come into play this fall. But at the end of the day, we're going to get what Mother Nature gives us. But I think as long as farmers are proactive, and if we get some opportunities given to us again in the market, try to take advantage of it, try to make some money, and hopefully we keep moving on.
When we went through 2012, there were a lot of farmers that didn't have crop insurance. That year made a believer out of them. Yeah,
the people who had it really obviously do. But there was quite an uptick. There's not a whole lot of active, full-time farmers left that don't carry. Maybe they've taken coverage levels down a little bit here or there, but not too much. It's relative to what you get. It's fairly inexpensive when you look at it. Nobody likes to write a check every year, but you're guaranteed a lot of uncertainty that's now certain with that. And I think a lot of people have looked at that now going, I want to be able to sleep at night. That sounds cliche, but that's really what it is. You've got that backstop to fall against if things go bad.
We had to deal with Prevent Plant, which is something a lot of farmers have never had to deal with.
In Central Illinois, absolutely. I mean, I've had a couple claims in my life in the area, but this was a year where we didn't probably end up with quite as much as we could have, but a lot of people sure got educated in a hurry, once again, how it works. I mean, I'll admit, even when we do our renewals with my clients, we don't spend a ton of time on it. Obviously, it's going to be top of mind next year, but I felt like our company did a really good job. We were proactive off the start. I mean, when it got to be late April and we saw the forecast, we started going, guys, it's time to make sure everybody knows what they got. And our plan was back in May when we were all sitting around trying to figure out what to do, was we wanted our clients to be able to make the best decisions and have a plan A, B, and C depending on what the weather gave us. And the weather gave us a window to plant, and a lot of people planted. That's fine, and now we'll see what we get it up with.
Did a lot of guys go with the 85% coverage?
You still see a lot of 80 to 85 in this part of the country. Champaign County is probably one of the lowest premium counties in the United States. Vermilion's a little higher, but not by much. And so you can get a lot of coverage for relatively what you're spending, not very much money. And also yield histories, it's based off your yield history. Obviously your APH, that has climbed drastically in the last 4 or 5 years, especially on beans. We're seeing a lot of people, you can guarantee a lot of stuff, a lot of coverage, a lot of bushels. And so most people have kind of defaulted to that more. And I'm not saying we do, we still go over the premiums, but for what you're getting for it, it makes a lot of sense.
When you sit down and talk to a guy about Prevent Plant, what are some of the things that you look for?
At the end of the day, it was basically, one, what your situation is. On corn, if you had all your anhydrous put on and a bunch of dry fertilizer and a high catch rent farm, it might, and depending on your yield history, it may not have worked as well. But if you had, if you had no inputs in it so far, high yield history, and you're in an area that really had trouble, you needed to weigh that as part of your options. And so at the end of the day, everybody's got a different case. You can't really make a blanket recommendation to everybody, but you want to make sure that everybody has the best choice they can make given the circumstance they got. And I think we did that, and most people did. They took the right route. As I said, we probably would have had a little bit more preventive planning if we would have had a rain that week of June 2nd they were calling for, and we didn't. I'm glad we didn't. Some people were able to plant corn.
Todd, when you're talking to the producers about lining up their financial needs, this prevent plant certainly is beneficial to have the money they need to get them through the growing season. What are some of the other things that you heard from the producers this year?
I'm going to back up just a little because Lee brought up a good point. The expenses in farming are so high these days. I think crop insurance now, is most people look at it as just part of one of your input costs. And I think they see with the rise, over the last 10 years especially, the protections there by having the crop insurance. I mean, without it, 1 year could take the feet right onto you, probably maybe into career. So I do think that guys like Lee, who is exceptional, does such a good job of educating the farmers. Lee, we had a meeting that was during that time that Lee talked about, the prevent, and it was our building was full. And Lee is somebody that a lot of people come to find out. Lee has a lot of knowledge, and crop insurance is always changing, and I get a lot of questions asked of me, and it's way over my head, and I'm fortunate that we've got a guy that does this full time and is as good as he is and can educate, not only members we work with, but he educates non-members. So Lee's very well respected out there by his peers. But getting back to you, is this year it's been so unique. I think we talked about we're fortunate. Boy, the south half of this county it really has looked good, and the optimism has really been there. I think the last week or so it's kind of taken the wind out. We keep wanting rain, trying to get a rain, and it just hasn't come. So it probably is we're getting about the lowest point I've seen, guys, because I really, considering what they went through to get this crop in the ground, to get to where we are, I thought the optimism overall was pretty strong. But it's, this has just been a tough year, and it's starting to take a toll on guys.
This is going to be one of those years we're going to watch these hybrids closely.
Absolutely. I mean, I think we talked earlier about genetics, and we've had such diverse growing seasons the last 5 years, and Lee could talk more on that, but we've really put these genetics to the test as far as too wet, too dry, cold, hot. I mean, this year's got about everything in it, and we're going to find out if they can take the stress of not having as much water.
Well, Farm Credit has revamped a lot of your lending options over the last several years, made it more conducive to go long term.
Absolutely. I mean, we're fortunate that we're farmer-owned, cooperative. Our board's made up of farmers, and so it's farmers in there making decisions on how we go to business every day. So we've had programs that for relief. There were times where rates have risen, and we held when the Fed had moved. We've had interest reduction programs. We've just, every year we try to analyze where we're at and what we can do to best help our farmer out there.
Well, one of the programs that's helping the farmers right now is the Market Facilitator Program. Lee, tell us about that.
Yeah, it's a continuation of what we saw last year with the trade war. Basically, the USDA and the president has the authority to use some monies and dollars to benefit or to help out farmers. And so last year we had a bushel-based program for 19 that's a acre-based program. So basically what they've done, they've come out with a direct payment based on your county. Your county's assigned a rate, and that is going to be based on planted acres of all qualifying crops. In most cases, you're talking corn, soybeans, wheat. In this area, there's going to be some others, but at the end of the day, all those crops are the same payment rate. So if you are at, say, Vermilion County is $80 an acre, that's the rate's going to be paid on corn, soybeans, wheat, so on and so forth. So the first half of that payment is now eligible to be signed up for. couple interesting things besides that. They raised the cap. It was $125,000 per individual or entity. That's going to be $250,000 per individual entity for this year. So that's going to be nice. It doesn't take long to zap up that money. I know it sounds like a lot of money to your average person, but on a large farm operation, that's just a drop sometimes. And also they've clarified some language. There was some language early on saying that you weren't going to receive any more than what you farmed at 18. That's been clarified now to say you added an 80 or bought more ground or rented more ground, you're eligible for payments on those now too. So they made that language in there so somebody wouldn't tear up like native sod or woods, trees. It was designed to keep people from abusing that, not from somebody who's natural, especially for a young farmer, maybe who's farming 40 acres, now farming 500. It's critical for them to be able to be eligible for this. So, but I've been telling my growers and prospects of whoever, members, that when you go into your appointment, you can sign up now, but know your total full share acres number before you go in, so that, because when they're going to run your number there at the FSA, they're going to calculate that based on 18 till, and then you're going to go through any additions due to added ground. Just have your homework ready, know what your full share acres are. I know you just met with that crew a month ago. They went through a heck of a run, just like crop insurance did. They extended the deadline a week to report acres, so they just kind of got a breath here. But be patient and work through it. Just make sure things are accurate. Don't want to catch it 6 months later. That's never good. So, and just make sure it all looks good. So.
And those that had prevent plant, there will be some compensation if they planted cover crop.
Yeah, the cover crop. If you plant keywords qualifying cover crop. So, in the notice that was sent by USDA, there's a list of crops eligible for MFP. Corn, soybeans are obviously on there, but things such as oats. There's some others not as typical crops for Central Illinois. If those are used as a cover crop, if you plant those before August 1st, you are eligible for a $15 an acre MFP payment. So where I've had some situations where some of my growers that took prevent plant actually used soybeans as a cover crop on corn acres. So what they did is they put the beans out later, and when they get to, say, September, October, once those start getting close to our stage, they're just going to either disc them or mow them down, keep the nitrogen back in the soil. And if you got the beans for very cheap or free, possibly, depending on the situation, it made sense. Your typical cover crop seed's probably pretty high demand and a little higher price right now, and I'm not saying from experience, but given the circumstance we had this year, I think a lot of the typical cover crop planting stuff was pretty used up early on, and so now that's why they've opened up corn, soybeans, a lot of other wheat. You can use other things, but you got to just follow the rules. Talk to your agent, or if it's one of my customers, talk to me to make sure we're doing it the right way. And you do have to report that planting date to the FSA also on the cover crop, which you typically don't do, but you'll need to do that to qualify for payment.
Will that have any impact on their crop insurance?
No, cover crops doesn't affect crop insurance. Main thing, you can't harvest it. So if you put the beans out and decide they look good in your combine, that affects a lot of things. First of all, it's against the rules, but no, if it's just used as cover, that doesn't make any difference to us.
One of the programs that you guys have, Todd, is the Young Family Farmers program. Tell me about that.
The Fresh Roots program, I tell you what, it's designed for young farmers under 40, 10 years less experience. What it does, it allows, it changes some of the lending constraints, lowers some of those, the things that typically make it hard, like a down payment if you're buying ground. But it gives we've got a set rate for the operating rate that's a reduced rate. On real estate purchases, in the first 5 years, it's a very reduced rate, and then moves back up a little bit. The lending, as far as the down payment goes, it goes from, say, 35 to as low as 15 or 20%. So it gives a young farmer the capability of taking over an operation, and that's what we see when somebody's young coming in, is they don't have the balance sheet that Dad does or Grandpa did. So this is a way for us to help them transition in those early stages. And I think we're seeing a period, and going to see the next few years, we're going to see a larger transition. We've got a number of farmers, I think, in the next 5 to 10 years that'll be retiring, moving on, and younger people transitioning in. So it's just been a fantastic program for us.
Looking forward to it, seeing that program in operation, because the national average right now is 57 for the farmer. So we want to see the new young farmers come in and succeed.
Absolutely, and without help, either by a lender like ourselves or mom or dad, or it's just you just can't pick up and say, hey, I want to farm, and even families we see it hard. Lee can attest this. There's families that are farming, and it's still hard to transition somebody in just because of the cost. So that's what we're trying to do, is bridge that gap.
Absolutely. You got spouses working off the farm?
Oh, absolutely. You've got guys who farm quite a bit of acres that work full time. I know several of my client example who maybe they're a full-time firefighter that farms 500 acres. With the equipment you have nowadays, you do have the ability to do that. And so, yeah, it's not uncommon to have off-farm income. This is more of a Todd question, but off-farm income is critical right now. And you've got a lot of people that do. It's a lot more than just a little piddly part-time job. There's people that have full-time careers who are farming still. So
you guys work together as a team, and that's so crucial for the producer.
Absolutely. We're fortunate that we can go out, and with Lee's knowledge and hopefully my knowledge, that we can really help make an impact in an operation. That's our goal, is to be a positive impact, or kind of be an asset to that operation. We want to bring value to them, not just in a rate or a policy. We're trying to help educate and promote what they're doing.
It's a team effort, and it's very, very successful. Farm Credit cares. That's so important.
Yeah, and I can attest to Todd again. It's huge having to be able to have multiple things we can offer. But yeah, just at the end of the day, when you're working with a farm family, the key is to get to know them well and understand their situation, because you want them to be comfortable to be able to share with you their needs, and you need to be able to be comfortable with them if there's some things that you need to let them know what they should or shouldn't do. There's a lot of stuff like that, and that's our loan side does such an awesome job, Todd especially in this territory, and everybody knows who he is, and he just gets to know people so well, and that's a big deal when you're doing business with somebody, and help, and it just makes a big difference to understand people's situations, so you're not blindsided by something, by a surprise, and it's almost like we're a consultant. We just want to be able to help people make their best decisions they can that do well for themselves.
It's like that old saying, people don't care how much they know until they know how much you care, and that's really goes a long ways, doesn't it?
You're exactly right. That's a good way of putting it. So,
and it's emotional. Like Lee said, we get to know these families. We know their kids, their parents, or it's there's a lot more than just showing up and writing a loan or issuing a policy. So, and that's why a year like this, it's hard on not just those families, it's hard on us, because we see what they go through, and we're trying to find ways to help them and keep succeeding so they can keep doing what they love to do.
Helping farm families succeed. That's what it's all about, right, Todd?
Absolutely.
Lee, thanks for being with us.
Yeah, thank you. We wouldn't do it any other way. With our way our model works with this company, it's just, like you said, it can be tough sometimes when you get to know people well, but I'd much rather do it this way than fly by night and just showing up and writing it up and leaving. So
absolutely. Thanks, Todd.
Hey, thanks for. Can I turn the tables? I've always wanted to do this. I want to be the interviewer and ask Dave a question. Huh? Hey, Dave, you see a lot of farmers. You guys educate the farmers. You keep them informed. You've been up and down a few counties here. You've seen a lot. I know the last few weeks you guys been on the road. What are the farmers telling you? What's your perception? What are they thinking out there?
Well, the older ones are more optimistic because they have been through the 80s, let's say. It's the younger ones that are a little more apprehensive, but thankfully we've got the older farmers out there saying, just hang in there. It goes in cycles, because we've heard that terminology used before. So I think overall they're very optimistic. They're relying on these new hybrids or new genetics, if you will, to really show their stuff this year.
Well, good. Hey, we appreciate everything that you guys do, promoting us, promoting the farmer. You guys are an awesome asset.
You want an employment application now?
I think I do. Hey, thanks very much.
Thank you. That's Todd Smith and Lee Waters joining us here on WITY.